now available in paperback and e-readers. Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. Batman stated at the end of The Dark Knight that you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And when I take a critical examination of the art form known as rap music, the entertainers, in some cases that are celebrated, die heroes to black people. Unfortunately, the art form has lived long enough that it has become a villain that has corrupted the minds of brothers and sisters, and it's been compromised to the point that it no longer represents the intention and the mission of the brothers and sisters who created it back in the 1970s. Now, I have lived long enough to see rap come from its inception to the horrible state of affairs that the art form is in today. Now, I was watching a video by your Ringo TV reactions where he was upset about how most of today's rap music today only talks about drugs, killing, and shooting. But this was not the case when I was a little boy growing up in the South Bronx, the home of rap music. No, when rap music first came out when I was a boy back in the late 70s and the 80s, rap music was controlled by heterosexual black men, and while these brothers didn't have much money, they ensured the narrative of their music was positive. And the reason why those brothers wanted to make sure the message of their music was positive, because like myself, they grew up in the South Bronx at the time, which resembled a war zone with entire blocks that were basically leveled by fires from insurance scams and lots of buildings that were abandoned. So when brothers went out here and were making their rap music, they wanted to show that we could be positive and represent something positive in the state of all of that blight. And when we came up with rap, it originally stood for rhythm and poetry, and the whole point of rhythm and poetry was all about going out here and showing how intelligent we could be in the face of all of that poverty, that we could go out here and know how to use words and phonetics to go out here and make songs and about having fun or bragging about who's the best guy freestyle, or in some cases we would go out here and tell stories about our experiences in that ghetto, like the classic Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 song known as The Message. Back when heterosexual black men controlled the media and the narrative of rap music, there was a lot of diversity of thought, and most of that thought was all about presenting a positive image of black men and women who were out here and could go out here and make our own music in spite of all of the urban blight around us. I mean, back then we had rappers who could go out here and entertain a crowd, whether they were talking about hard politics like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five did with The Message, humor like what you got from rappers like the Fat Boys, or we got guys who were serious about their lyricism like your Cool Mo D. We got back then lots of diversity of thought, but the whole point of rap music was to show that we could be intelligent and we could go out here and make music that represented, in spite of all of our struggles, a symbol of hope for all of those brothers and sisters and positive examples of what black people could become by being creative and resourceful and using the whatever is around us to build something out of the ashes of that dying borough of the South Bronx and many other Bronx neighborhoods. That's what rap's core foundation was, and back in those dark days of the late 70s and the early 80s, when heterosexual black men controlled rap and hip-hop, many of these mainstream radio stations didn't want to play rap music, because I remember back then many of your big stations at the time, like your Z100s and your WPLJs, they didn't really play rap music. No, the only stations that played them were the black owned stations like WBLS, 98.7 KISS, and on occasion, your Hot 97. Those were the only three stations in New York City that played rap music on the regular, and you had to literally, you weren't going to see any rap videos on MTV. No, you had to go to a station like a U68 or occasionally go to a PBS station to watch something like Video Music Box or Color Sounds in order to see a rap video. Now, your rap was always controlled by heterosexual black men, but what we saw as rap started to get popular in the mid 80s was a lot of people wanting to go mainstream. And because these individuals wanted to go mainstream, this is where the rap music really started to be at a crossroads. Now, the art form was really evolving and growing as we started to see other different artists come out of this from the base of the old bragging about who's the best. The lyricists and the comedy rappers evolve into another era, which was where we got a more advanced lyricism from guys like your Big Daddy Kane. We got more advanced comedy rap from comedy rappers like Kid and Play. And we got lyricists and guys who were great at the freestyle, like your Cool G Raps, your Big Daddy Kanes, your Rakims. I mean, it started to evolve in the mid 80s to late 80s, but the big problem with rap on the business side was you got young, hungry guys like Russell Simmons who wanted to go out here and wanted to go mainstream. Moreover, you had rappers from other parts of the country, like the West Coast, who wanted to go out here and wanted to also go mainstream. So this wanting to go mainstream was the crossroads for rap music that led to a compromise that led to the end of the diversity of thought that we got as related to rap music, where we started to really see rap music really evolve as related to being an art form and seeing different rappers use different techniques. And we started to see black rappers from all across the country and the globe, because we saw people like Moni Love, Slick Rick, and the Cookie Crew coming from the UK. We started to see a big diversity of thought, and when black men were controlling rap music, unfortunately, what led to the decline of that diversity of thought was the need for white validation. And because we had producers out here seeking the need for white validation, that's where we started to see the beginning of the end of the art form of rap music. And the art form of rap music basically died in 1989 when the NWA came out with the record Straight Outta Compton. Now, when Straight Outta Compton came out, a lot of people just said, oh, it's another hardcore album like Ice-T came out with, and rappers like Just Ice would come out with, where they were making a political statement. But what many didn't see was that there were individuals behind the scenes who were out here looking to use the NWA as the gateway to co-opting and hijacking the rap music art form. And that's exactly what happened when your Straight Outta Compton went platinum. It was the album that basically completely changed the entire art form of rap music. And instead of rap music being rich and diverse like it was before Straight Outta Compton came along, what we started to see was your producers like your Diddy Combs and your Russell Simmons all seeking that white validation. And as all of these individuals sought white validation that NWA had, this is what led to the compromise of rap music. And this compromise of rap music is what led from rap being an art form and being turned into a modern day minstrel show. And this minstrel show was where your black entertainers basically sold out the art form, And as they sold out the art form, what they did was end the diversity of thought and began creating music that would appease these white individuals who were controlling the entertainment industry. And as they made the music that appealed to the whites in the entertainment industry, instead of us getting that diversity of thought where we were seeing different black people from different walks of life, what we all got to see was gangsters and thugs. And these gangsters and thugs, what they did, rapped about, was crime, selling drugs, and killing people. They have been doing this ever since 1989. And what we're seeing over the last 30 years is that gangster rap evolving into what people called trap music and what they call your drill rap music. These are all evolutions of gangster rap music, and all of this music is designed to fit the idea of your white media executives and fit their view of black people. And what they want to do is make music that appeals to those white executives and give them their view of the world. And when they see all of these black males out here talking about selling drugs and killing people, this is what makes these executives feel comfortable about what they want to see as related to black people. Now, the facts as related to the drug game are that the war on drugs basically ended in the 90s. The crack epidemic ended in the 90s, but you've still got black rappers out here talking about selling drugs, talking about being in gangs, talking about killing people. But no, but the whole thing is that what they're rapping about is not because this is a relevant event that goes on in the black community. No, this is entertainment that the white racist wants to see, and this is where they want to see black people at. What's really sad here about this kind of music is that the black people who make this music are completely brainwashed by white supremacy to give them the images of black people that white racists want to see. And instead of us getting that rich diversity that we got back in the late 70s and early 80s when I grew up, all you're seeing are a bunch of guys out here and they're rapping about crime, they're rapping about selling drugs, they're rapping about killing people, they're rapping about trap houses, they're rapping about B's and H's, and they're only rapping about this because your music executives, this is what they want to see from black entertainers, and this is the only type of entertainer they will sign a contract for. Now, there's a reason why they, again, do this because they know that black kids don't know any better, and they will know that they will follow these individuals, believing many of the messages in that music to be true. But there's no old OGs to sit there and tell them that this era basically ended in the mid 90s and nobody's out here doing this kind of stuff. No, this is made up by these entertainers and the white executives behind them. And these white executives, again, push and promote this music to destroy the lives of black people because they know that many young, gullible teenagers, they don't know that many of these entertainers have been phony baloney ever since the days of your Tupac Shakur, who never was a thug, but he was just a carefully crafted social construct made up by music executives to fit the image that they wanted as related to black people. The reason why they made up a Tupac Shakur basically was because they wanted to have an image of a thug, and that image of a thug was designed to be a social construct that they could go out here and use to keep young black kids out of school, keep young black kids out of college, and have them on a pathway to prison. That is the main reason why they went out here and created music like your NWA, your Tupac, and it evolved into your trap house and your, oh, is it drill rappers. This is all about putting black people on a gateway to either death or prison. And that's why these guys are rapping about death. That's why these guys are rapping about prison. This is why they're rapping about selling drugs and trap houses. They're rapping about these things because the white people who control the music industry, this is what they're willing to go out here and give money to. But what's really sad about the entire rap game is that we black men could have had this business. We could have controlled this media, and we could have controlled this narrative. And but even though we only made a little bit of money back in the 70s and the 80s when we had this art form, we could have controlled this media and the narratives around it. Unfortunately, what prevented us from keeping control of our media was the cancer known as white validation and the cancer known as white approval. Many of the people who produced rap music, they wanted to get in with these white executives. They wanted to go mainstream. And when they went mainstream, they sold out the art form of rap music. And once they sold out the art form for the commercial appeal of larger white audiences, that's when they compromised all of the messages and the themes that the creators of rap in the South Bronx established back in the late 70s. And what we see today with today's rap music is a completely compromised art form, and we've seen it just completely betray all of the ideals of rhythm and poetry and the focus on creating a positive message that empowers brothers and sisters, because what's in today's rap music is basically a modern minstrel show meant to appeal to white supremacists and give them the images of black people that make their world smooth. So the images we are seeing in today's rap music, this is no different than a minstrel show, but instead of having whites putting on blackface and caricaturizing black people, what the white supremacist has done has made an environment where he can go out here and recruit black people to go out here and behave in the caricaturized and dysfunctional ways that make him feel comfortable. But you can't explain this to many black people out here as they go out here and mourn the death of your takeoff. And when your former record executive Robert Starbuck explained this in a bombshell video, I just said, I've known this for years as somebody who has studied the entertainment industry, and I lived through all of this, and I remember seeing rap being completely compromised back in the late 80s and early 90s when your NWA came to the market, because in order to get NWA to the marketplace, your Dr. Dre and Ice Cube and Eazy-E made compromises with the white supremacists, thinking they were going to go out here and be big stars, but the cost of that stardom was the entire image of your rap music. And as they found the formula for rap music on the West Coast, we had the East Coast producers like your Russell Simmons and your P. Diddy and many others wanting, again, to get to that mainstream audience. And as they got mainstream, this compromised the internal message. And that's how we went from seeing that rich, diverse picture where you could see Rakim being the master of rhymes and lyrics, your Cool G Rap rapping about the street, your Big Daddy Kane having the smoothest flow, your Kid and Play being comedy rappers, your X-Clan being pro-black, to everything being 24/7 gangsta, 24/7 thug, and now 24/7 talking about gangs, drugs, death, and violence. I mean, this is how we went from having a diversity of thought in rap music to a monolithic thought. And that monolithic thought is that you've got whites telling black people how to be black, similar to what I saw in the movie Hollywood Shuffle in the black acting school comedy sketch. Now, if you've ever watched the movie Hollywood Shuffle made by Robert Townsend, there's a sequence called Black Acting School where the guy is doing the jive walk and the white guy tells him that he's doing it wrong, then tells him how to do the jive walk. Now, this joke went over my head for over 30 years because I originally watched this back in 1989, but a couple of years ago I watched it and I finally understood that joke, and the joke was that you had a white man telling a black man how to be black, and what we're seeing now in the rap business is we're seeing white guys tell black guys how to be black and telling them how what black is. And again, this is no different than what was presented not only in Hollywood Shuffle, but also presented in books like those written by your Donald Goines, where all they talked about was pimps and criminals. Again, the white supremacist only wants to see one image of black people, and it's just greatly troubling to me that the only image of black people that black people feel are black are the images of the hood, the streets, and selling drugs. And again, when we look at what happened to your takeoff, a black male who came from the suburbs, he bought into the lies that were created by these executives, and he believed that the only way to be a rapper was to be in these streets. And again, just showing you how white supremacy's influence has co-opted rap music, and how your rap music is nothing like it was back when heterosexual black men controlled the media and when heterosexual black men controlled the narrative over rap music. Because when heterosexual black men controlled the entire genre of rap music, the entire genre of rap music was about things that were positive. It was about guys rapping about who was the best rapper. It was about who had the best freestyle. And when two guys went to battle on the mic, it was never personal. And even at the end of the battle, guys would shake hands like men and would just concede that one guy's freestyle was better than another guy's freestyle. It was never about guns or violence. It was always about presenting positive images of black masculinity and black manhood, and presenting role models for young brothers to see how a black man could go out here and move in the streets and move himself ahead and still maintain his integrity and character as a black man. That's the original core foundation of what a rapper used to be, but there were some who sought white validation, and because they wanted that white acceptance, they went out here and made compromises, and while they got their millions and even billions of dollars, they left all of these young brothers and sisters with a compromised message inside of this music that is driving brothers and sisters to the graveyard and driving them to their deaths as they follow these Pied Pipers. And that's sadly how we've gone from rap music being a hero that saved the lives of many in the black community, giving many young people like myself when I was a teenager inspiration, to living long enough to become an art form that has become the villain in black communities. And this villain is terrifying black people and destroying the lives of brothers and sisters all across this country and even across the world. Because what is happening here is we've got people out here thinking that being a rapper is about being a criminal or being associated with criminals, but that never was the case as related to old school rap. No, old school rap was about showing how you could go out here and make a way legit, how you could go out here and be positive in spite of all of the negativity around you. Because when we had, back in the day, we had songs like Self-Destruction, which spoke against black on black crime. We had messages that told people not to go out here and destroy themselves or kill their own brothers. We had songs talking about not taking drugs, like I think it was a song called King Heroin. and other songs like Road to the Riches by Cool G Rap. We spoke against these kinds of things, and we all spoke about doing things that were positive in the community. And again, it's sad that I have lived long enough to see rap music become the villain in our communities instead of staying the hero that helped brothers and sisters get hope in those rough times of the crack epidemic, in the times of the burnt down Bronx. I mean, when I was growing up in the burnt down Bronx and living through the dark days of the crack epidemic, it was that music that was get what gave a lot of brothers and sisters hope out here. And just sitting there watching something like a Friday Night Videos or a U68 or listening to 98.7 Kiss FM or watching Video Music Box, it was that music that gave a lot of brothers and sisters hope here in New York City in the rough neighborhoods. It was just being able to watch these music videos and see people who look like you going out here and making a way that helped people like me be able to hang in there in dark places like Park West High School and IS 148 where I went to school. I mean, it was this type of music that again gave a lot of young brothers and sisters that hope. But sadly, we don't. The people who made that music, they're no longer with us, and sadly, nobody was there to mentor the next generation. And because the next generation grew up on this gangster rap, they're all looking to be gangsters. But the gangster era ended in the 90s, and as the gangster era has ended, and people are opening up legit weed shops, you've got guys talking about trap houses and death when that era ended a long time ago. And sadly, these guys are stuck in what I call the New Jack City time warp, and they're rapping about all of this death and violence, and that's what's leading to so many rappers thinking that they've got to die like Biggie and Tupac when they could breathe brand new life into this music by rapping about things that are positive and bring this music back to what it was, because we don't need to be talking about all of this death and violence. No, that's not what this rap music was all about. No, the rap music that I grew up with was extremely positive. The foundations of that music was positive, and you could take it back to being positive, but the only way to take it back is for black men and women to start controlling the media and by not supporting this gangster rap and all of this trap house and all of this drill rap. Because if you want to have better music, you've got to go and support positive people, and you've got to go out here and support positive content. Because every time you support one of these negative rappers, all you're doing is supporting the death of black people, and all you're doing is promoting and supporting self-hatred. Because when you talk about killing other black people, this is self-hatred. And when you make music about killing black people and selling poison to other black people, all you're doing is participating in white supremacy. Because what the white supremacist wants to see is black people in the ghetto, black people selling drugs, black people talking about killing each other, black people talking about death. These are white supremacist messages, and what you're seeing from these rappers today is them rapping like white and sounding like white supremacists, and these white supremacist messages being parroted by black people, and these white supremacist messages are being all that are promoted on these mainstream media platforms as rap music. And sadly, again, this is where rap music has become the villain, because we've had people who died heroes by selling out and then living long enough to become the villains who are now billionaires, and those billionaires are having no problem watching as the art form that they were a part of become a enterprise that is designed to destroy the lives of black people. Now, if you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, and novels like Eternal Night and the Thetas, You can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find those books on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Give in to temptation and pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of